after a day of well-earned rest, we're up to stage 12 of the 1997 Tour de France. Hello again, welcome to our exclusive coverage right here on SBS. I'm coming to you today from the city of Saint-Etienne, and I can tell you the mood here in the past 24 hours has been one of relaxation. As for the Garn team, Frédéric Moncassin and Australia's own Stuart O'Grady, they've even had time for some fun and games.
Does Stewie have some bad habits?
Bad?
Je fais la mauvaise chose?
Ah, no.
No?
No. En discothèque, clean, no beer.
No beer?
No beer.
No beer at all?
Nothing.
Come on.
Just see.
Just see?
Just see the
I'll give you the
girl.
money later.
Just see the girl.
So it's a good team, huh?
Good team, ouais, very good team.
Yeah.
This year, good morale, a good team because Eros Poli and good mentality, and they the Australian is very good. And they live 2 km from my house.
Yeah?
We're training.
Oh, really?
Good.
He shows me all the good cafes and the good restaurants.
Yeah.
And,
Australian cafe in Toulouse.
there's an Australian cafe there, which I bought a Carlton cold beer from, and I was pretty happy to find one of them. Couldn't get a Cooper's Pale Ale from Adelaide, but
So that's a
the best beer.
bad habit. You said he wasn't drinking beer.
no, I was buying it for him.
Oh, okay.
J'ai acheté le bière pour toi.
Yes, the Garn boys there really enjoying their day off yesterday. But having said that, as far as Australia's dynamic duo are concerned, Henk Vogels and Stuart O'Grady, it's also a time when they're contemplating their future. Henk Vogels and Stuart O'Grady spent most of yesterday preparing for the gruelling schedule that lays during the second half of the Tour de France. But both also had other important things on their minds.
Both Hank and myself currently talking with other teams based on Roger Leger's that hasn't found a sponsor for next year, and also we've been approached by IMG. So, you know, we've got a few things to think about in the next few weeks.
O'Grady and Vogels are in huge demand in Europe's lucrative cycling circuit. Garn will end its sponsorship at the end of the year. Team boss Roger Leger says finding a new sponsor won't be difficult, but he questions whether the Australians would be wise to sign with IMG, the division headed by former Tour rider Stephen Hodge.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, nobody was around when I was on my knees with knee injuries, and, you know, picking up water bottles and carrying water bottles around for everyone, and, you know, at the lowest of the low. But now it makes it a little even more sweeter when everyone comes knocking on the door, but still got a job to do in the Tour de France. We're only halfway through.
It's, you know, there's a lot of pros and cons, there's a lot of stuff for us to think about. You know, hopefully we're going to be over here doing this for the next 10 or who knows how many years, you know, so for us to get our futures set up and, you know, good security and that kind of thing, and build a firm foundation in Europe, you know, it's probably a pretty good thing.
So some big decisions there to be made by Stuart O'Grady and Henk Vogels in the coming weeks. Jan Ullrich continues to wear the leader's yellow jersey going into today's stage, and even though many experts are saying the young German has the Tour in the bag, some are saying Richard Virenque and Abraham Olano still pose major threats. Stage 12 now is an individual time trial around this beautiful city of Saint-Etienne. It's around 55 kilometres long, but there is one very steep climb around 1,000 metres high, so there'll be some very sore legs by the end of it all. Let's now cross to Paul Sherwin. He's joined by Phil Liggett.
And the face of Cedric Vasseur, who lies 10th overall now. He led this race for 5 days and has earned himself a big reputation here in France. He's still a very much part of this event, and he could even improve on that 10th place. I don't think he's finished at all.
Well, it certainly isn't finished, and I think the French have really warmed to this rider because of the courageous way he held on to the yellow jersey. Most of the experts said he would get blown away in the mountains, and I was certainly one of those. But when it did come to the mountains, he fought back every time the race went downhill and brought himself back into the game.
Well, with the demise of the British rider Chris Boardman, Vasseur has become the top man in the GAN team this week. As he gets the countdown, he starts now 10th from the end of the start list, as we see Udo Boltz here heading up towards the finish. And you can see Frank Vandenbroek's time still surviving the passage of time here in Saint-Etienne. Udo Boltz, once 9th in the Tour de France, is a little bit off the pace, just over 2 minutes slower for him, and 11th place though. So you see the conditions which have really deteriorated may well stay in the favour of Van den Broek. It'll be very interesting to see what the big names can do, and they're about to start. Here he is coming up the home straight, having a very good season, Udo Bolts, and one of the Telecom team, which is an enormously strong team this year. And he certainly hasn't hung about, judging by his face. Bolts has taken this time trial very seriously indeed. He wants a big finish in this year's Tour de France. Well, we're looking now at Peter Luttenberger. We can see this man. He loves the mountains. He is meant to be the best place rider on the Rabobank before the start of the Tour, and that's exactly the way it's turning out to be. A man I think, Paul, we'll see a lot of in the Alps.
Well, certainly once we go into the Alps, it's going to be the terrain for the climbers to shine again. But you can see just how uncomfortable he is in this time trial position. A fairly standard machine he's using. All the adapters that he's got on there are really the clip-on bars at the front.
Well, he was 5th in the Tour de France last year at the first attempt. Many people thought he would be higher placed in this year's event, but he's got a bit of ground to make up at the moment. And, you know, this isn't the day to do it anymore because the roads are so slippery here now, and he'd be a fool, really, if he takes too many risks.
All the climbers want to do today, men like Peter Luttenberger, is to limit their losses on the big stars of the Tour de France who will start in the last 4 or 5 places. Ullrich and Bjarne Riis. They're going to ride this course as quickly as possible with only one thing in the back of their minds, and that's just to limit losses.
And tomorrow the race goes to Alpe d'Huez, the mecca for the Tour de France these days. And that steep climb could well see somebody like Luttenberger take control. But today he's in and out of wet roads, and of course the fog still awaits him up on the climb. 2 minutes in front of him starting today was the champion of Spain, Jose Maria Jimenez. And they really are, he's going into the corners all wrong, isn't he?
Well, he hasn't taken a very good line into any of the corners we've watched him riding so far. As we go back to the starting gate, and the man who could do a good time trial here, Oscar Camazin, sets out on his course.
So the champion of Switzerland is on course now. It leaves just 7 more riders to start, each going at 3-minute intervals. Luttenberger is about 6 minutes ahead of Camazin, a little bit more than that actually. He's 4 riders in front of him. So he'll be more interested in the whereabouts of the champion of Spain, Jimenez. Nobody getting anywhere near at the finishing line yet. The time of Frank Van den Broek with that 1 hour, 21 minutes and 8 seconds performance. And look at this, sprinting towards the line. Laurent Brochard of France here, who was the early king of the mountains. He really has some tremendous form. He is going to run Van den Broek's time close, and he knows it. That's why he's making such a great effort towards the end. He's aiming and he's losing the best time, that's for sure, but there aren't many within the same minute, if any at all. He can probably see that big clock as we look at the screen on our left, as he keeps the sprint up all the way to the line. Laurent Brochard Festina comes over the line, 1:21.58. He comes in at 3rd best so far. And this is Bjarne Riis, Paul, the concentration. I wonder what's going through his mind now with his young teammates still to start some 12 minutes behind him.
As he sets off there, Phil, down the starting ramp, he must be thinking this is going to be a very important time trial for me.
And look at conditions out on the mountain here. This is the top of the Col de la Croix de Chauveret. And Abraham Olano making his departure now. 3rd last to go. And saying that he's not too sure that this course suits him. And his form is a little bit below par, but he's hoping it might come back in the Alps. As Richard Varenk moves up into the start house wearing the polka dot jersey as the king of the mountain. And so Cédric Vasseur, the big crowd here, enjoying the sight of the Frenchman who's made a big impression on this year's Tour de France. Still, amazingly enough, the best time at 12.5 kilometres is Chris Boardman. He went through in just 14 minutes and 46 seconds before Frank Van den Broek took over the best time at all of the checks. And it's still that way, and Vasseur hasn't got to the first check yet. And this is the face now of Richard Varenk before he gets the final countdown. Well, he's not a great time trialist, but he can climb hills very, very well indeed. That might be in his favour today as he starts. Enormous cheer from the crowd there. They rate Richard Varenk. He's such an entertaining cyclist.
Out on the road, Phil, in fact, Abraham Olano looking very comfortable indeed. Got away to a fast start. It's quite interesting to see that he said before the start that he didn't feel that the course suited him, and Telecom felt that it did.
Jan Ullrich makes ready for his stage in the Tour de France, the time trial. 55 kilometres, 33 miles. And if he does do a good ride here, Paul, if he does win, then an awful lot of people are going to feel the tour is finished, aren't they?
They certainly will, apart from Richard Virenque, who will still attack him anyway. But the advantage that this man has now is knowing that he's starting last man. He will have the information of the times being produced out on the course, and as he rolls down the starting ramp, he's facing the most important time trial of his career.
Now back to Bjarne Riis out on the course here. It's an important time trial for him today. He's free as a bird. If he's got the strength to chase down his young team leader, then nobody will try to stop him, and they could go to the Alps as joint leaders again of the team.
He's on his own terrain. He's riding basically against himself. He has no opponents, only Bjarne Riis. And a few days ago, he was talking confidently, saying, the only opposition I have in this Tour de France is Bjarne Riis. Now he has to ride against himself.
Well, it looks as though we're going to have to stay with our helicopter at the moment as they keep pace with the maillot jaune of the Tour de France. As he swings away, going out towards the 12.5-kilometer check. The order there still: Boorman, Pantani and Eric Decker lying in third place. Now, as I speak, just up on our screen, Bjarne Riis, you've got it too, has gone through 14 minutes and 35 seconds. Best time by 11 seconds there. So Riis is starting to feel good. And Olano has now come through. He's disposed Riis at the top. Olano is the best time of 14 minutes and 29 seconds now. So he is riding well. Onto the climb now. There's only 2 riders to go through that 12.5-kilometer checkpoint at the moment. This is further up. This is Laurent Dufaux. He went through 27 seconds off the pace, and that would include now the time of Olano, who has just gone through. There's our situation. Virenque has come in equal on time with Abraham Olano. He's gone through that 12.5-kilometer check. 14 minutes and 29 seconds for Olano and Virenque. This is going to be a cliffhanger. Now back with the maillot jaune of the Tour, Jan Ullrich. It must be very lonely down there for him. He's closing down the race today. Well, we saw the white line there. He's now gone through the 12.5-kilometer checkpoint. We'll just await for the time of Jan Ullrich and see where he features now in what is becoming a race of seconds. Certainly at the first check, Ullrich has now gone through, and it looks to me as though he's trying exceptionally hard. This is the man, of course, he's on one-on-one with Bjarne Riis, his team captain, who's now 4th in the Tour de France. Riis has gone further on now. He's beginning the climb of the Col de la Croix de Chauberey, and he looks as though he's climbing pretty quickly as well. So, as Jan Ullrich has gone through with the best time so far at 12.5 kilometres, this race obviously going to go right down to the line. Until now, they've used their ordinary bikes, but just look at this. This is the arrival of Jan Ullrich at the top of the climb at 26.5 kilometres. He is taking his quick bike now as he starts to go down. He comes over the summit here. Best time, 43 minutes and 24 seconds. He's better than the Pantani. Riis and Olano and Virenque are also up amongst the leaderboard. But this is all about Jan Ullrich now.
It's going to be quite a remarkable performance. In fact, Olano and Riis are riding about the same speed and the same time. But in fact, the leader of the Tour, Jan Ullrich, is walking away from everybody with the performance that he's putting in today. Important thing that a lot of these riders have done as well, once they've got to the top of the climb, is also adopted the full disc wheel at the back. That will give them a lot more aerodynamics. The biggest turbulence you get on a machine like this is actually at the back, which is why they've got a disc wheel in the rear and not in the front.
That's the next target point for these riders as we swing back to Richard Virenque. 20 kilometres to go then for and look at this, there's the same 20-kilometre banner just up the road there. So Ullrich, he can't be more than about 25 seconds behind Richard Virenque, and he is absolutely pile driving his bicycle along the road now. Keeps putting his head down and concentrating on pushing those pedals around. Then he looks up again, and the crowd know that he's catching up. Here is Francesco Casagrande coming in, and at last we might see a new time on the leaderboard here. The Italians really fancy this man to one day star in the Tour de France, and this could be the start of it. Casagrande sprinting up towards the line. The time of Frank van den Broek at last is going to be beaten. And so as he comes up to the line to a huge cheer from the crowd, 1 hour 20:20, he is the new leader. Waiting for the time of Olano at the 41-kilometre point. 1 hour 4 minutes and 17 seconds it is. So he's gone through with the third best time. He's closed right in as well on Pantani and Riis, just 8 seconds off the pace. They are all coming back together in a big packet.
Most certainly quite remarkable. There's confirmation of Pantani's time, 4:09. Rees at the same time, and Olano just 8 seconds off the mark. So this final few kilometers is really going to be the important part. If anybody cracks now, they're going to lose an awful lot of time.
Here it comes, the catch. Ullrich looks over his shoulder, goodness knows why. The whole Tour de France is in front of him. The man who is second in the race is in front of him, and in about 5 seconds time he's going to be behind him. He's bridged the gap of 3 minutes now. I would love to see the face of Richard Virenque as this rider comes through. I'm not sure he knows which side to go. He was going the inside, now he's gone the outside. He goes over the top, an enormous crowd cheers here at the finishing line. He goes right round Richard Virenque, no reaction from Virenque. And now Jan Ullrich goes forward. He is now 3 minutes and 3 seconds ahead on the road.
Well, Richard Virenque must now ride at least 25 meters behind the rider in front of him, Jan Ullrich. But it's actually going to be an advantage for him because he can push himself to try and keep the gap at that distance. And that may well help him to ride a faster final time trial than Bjarne Riis and even Abraham Olano.
Well, he's now going to have to keep Jan Ullrich in his sights. He can't creep closer than 25 meters unless he plans an overtake. If he plans an overtake, then he must move up on either side of Ullrich, and there must be at least 3 meters of air between the two of them. This has been a superb performance by Marco Pantani. He sprints for the line. He's going to get the best time. So little Marco really is back. As he comes up to the line now, he'll be just outside 1 hour 20 minutes, and inside Casa Grande, best time for Marco Pantani, and a huge cheer. Well, here's Richard Virenque. He must feel a little bit confused now because gone by him has gone the German Express, Jan Ullrich. He is now out of sight of Richard. As we go back to the finish to a cheer of the Dane arriving, Bjarne Riis coming up now. It looks like he will replace Marco Pantani as leader on the board. He sprints all the way up to the line. It just shows you the quality of Pantani's ride. Riis will only just beat it. 1 hour, 19 minutes and 32 seconds for him. 34 seconds to the good. 1 kilometer to go now for Abraham Olano.
Well, Olano has done a very good ride indeed. He's doing around about the same time as Bjarne Riis all the way along this course, so it's going to be interesting to see just exactly what his finish time is. At the last time check, he was in fact just 9 seconds adrift of the time of Bjarne Riis as they turn now into the Col Foriel, and then it's a straight up climb to the finish line and a very tough finish indeed.
So Abraham Olano racing up towards the finish now. Just a few seconds separating him and Riis. Not so many kilometers ago. Who has come down the mountain the best? Is it Riis or is it Olano? We're going to find out the answer to that very shortly now as the big Abraham Olano comes up towards the finishing line. The best time is Riis at 1:19.32. Olano knows it's close and he's going to sprint it out all the way to the line here. Again, a solid performance, and look how close it is. Olano might pip Riis on the line here with a good finish, and I think he's going to do it. Abraham Olano sprinting all the way to the line. It is going to be desperately close. I think we're talking about who gets second on the stage, and Abraham Olano is just going to fail. As he comes up to the line, the crowd are cheering because he's failed, because most here are Danish. Olano comes over in second place at the moment, 1:19.38 for him, 6 seconds off Bjarne Riis. Back out into the closing stages of this tremendous time trial today with the rider who is rewriting the records books on this stage of the Tour de France.
But still, Phil, he knows he's got so much of a lead and he's taking all kinds of risks. He nearly clipped the curb just down there, and the crowd that cheered there when Olano was beaten was in fact a Danish crowd. And it'd be interesting to see just how quiet they are when this man from Germany comes across the line. He's from the same team, the Deutsches Telekom team, but what a remarkable ride he's putting in at the moment.
Well, I'm willing to bet they in fact do cheer Jan Ullrich all the way across the line, because the Danes are great sportsmen and they recognise the strength of this man who's only 23 years of age. But you know, it's been a much better descent by Virenque. He's clawed his way back behind Jan Ullrich for the finish, and that's why we like this man. He never gives up.
Well, he's fighting all the way to the line. He had, in fact, the possibility of seeing Bjarne Riis away up the road there. Now he's got Ullrich there right in front of him. He's using Jan Ullrich as a mouse, like a cat. He's trying to catch him. He's pacing himself just to try and make sure that he can keep on the podium in Paris.
Well, there's the gap between the two of them, and providing you are attacking the rider in front, which Virenque is doing right now, he can go right up to him. It's his prerogative. He is coming back. He's proved that. There's the kilometre right ahead of Jan Ullrich. We can't go closer now to Ullrich. Oh, having said that, here we are up behind him, so we must be able to do so. So Ullrich is going in towards the right-hand turn to the finish, and Virenque is coming back at him. But let's not forget, he is 3 minutes behind him on the start order.
Well, certainly he's lost 3 minutes at least this afternoon, but what a great ride by the man who is not on his own terrain. He is not one of the big time trialists of the world. He's a very good climber indeed, but he's used all of his courage today to pull himself back to the man who is flying around this 55-kilometre course. And the crowd, I think, looking on now, realise that this man, Jan Ullrich, is doing the most magnificent time trial performance of this year.
And those Danes are cheering on Ullrich. They are banging on the boards. They are, in fact, making more noise for Ullrich now than they did for Bjarne Riis. And as he comes up towards the finish now, this time is going to be sensational. Look at that. 1 hour, 16 minutes. It's not going to be much more than that now. Virenque continues to come back at him up towards the finish. But Jan Ullrich today has extended his lead, not by seconds, but by minutes in the Tour de France. This has been a most emphatic time trial. He won his first stage last year. It was a time trial. He's already won one stage this year. He gained time then for yellow. He wins another stage now. He gains even more time. He increases yellow. 1:16.24 for Jan Ullrich. That is a tremendous time as he comes across the line to take his second stage win of the Tour de France.
Well, what a staggering performance there by Jan Ullrich. No doubt another turning point as far as his career is concerned, and also another turning point as far as the course of the 1997 Tour de France is concerned. Let's have a look at the stage results. Jan Ullrich, #1, way ahead of Richard Virenque, 3 minutes and 4 seconds. Unbelievable result. Behind him is Riis, Alano and Pantani. But it's the GC, the general classification, that holds a lot of interest. Ullrich on top, 5 minutes and 42 seconds ahead of Richard Virenque. That is a staggering difference. And third place is Abraham Alano, 8 minutes behind. Well, today is a day that will be remembered for a long time as the day Jan Ullrich turned the 1997 Tour de France on its head. This is Mike Tomalaris. Good night.
I was told not to go 100%, but he had to go at least 90-95%, so I'm knackered.
Harder than I thought. It's a tough course. It's really windy. Time trialing is certainly not my thing, but I just went by my heart rate today and just made sure that the time I had in the end was at least going to be within the time limit, and I'm pretty sure it will be. Oh, you know, it wasn't easy, you know. I was going about 3/4 gas up the climb. The only thing that happened, the crew sent me out with a disc wheel to test it out for Virenque and make sure that it was going okay, and the storm hit and it nearly blew me off the road. So.
How would you like to fly to Paris and see next year's tour live? Just enter our Tour de France competition and you could win 2 return tickets to Paris flying with Cathay Pacific at any time of your choice within the next 12 months. Get your entry form from this issue of Bicycling Australia magazine. Also inside Bicycling Australia is your chance to win 2 state-of-the-art 1998 model Raceline bicycles by Apollo. The Raceline Carbon Ultra 18 speed road bike features Spinergy carbon fibre wheels, a carbon fibre frame and 1998 Shimano componentry. Raceline's Extreme DH full suspension aluminium mountain bike has massive suspension travel for some serious fun. The Raceline's combined value is around $8,800. So get Bicycling Australia and send your entries to SBS Television.